first. Who am I going to first? As always, it's Sean Kerner, the nicest guy in the betting business.
Thank you. Well, I can't think of a better way to kick off the 2022 season than the way it ended the 2021 season. And that is attacking some Cam Akers player props. I'm going with the Cam Akers under 950 rushing yards. Betting on the unders for running back, their season-long props is usually a sharp thing to do because they're the most fragile position. You can typically project, starting running backs to miss 2 to 3 games per season. They're taking the most shots per game, most injury-prone position. But, Cam Akers, he's only a year removed from Achilles injury, which is, devastating for running back. You can argue he rushed too soon last year by coming back in the playoffs. He only averaged 2.6 yards per carry in the playoffs. And this season, he could still be rusty. It takes some time, if ever, to overcome an Achilles tear. So I think his efficiency is still going to be pretty subpar. And plus, the offensive line should take a step back this year. Andrew Whitworth retired, their 3rd-round rookie that they were going to start at right guard. Logan Bruss tore his ACL a couple weeks ago. So the offensive line should take a step back. And plus, Sean McVay has already hinted more of a 50-50 timeshare with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. So there's just a ton of red flags on Cam Akers already entering the season. That just taking the under here is a no-brainer. I'm projecting this closer to 850.
All right, Cam Akers, Sean Kerner, he likes him under 950.5 rushing yards. Simon Hunter, my co-host on the Favorites podcast, what do you got?
Chad, I figured if I'm going to tie your money up for 6-7 months, we might as well have fun doing it. And we'll do something gross this year. I'm thinking about a guy, a new face in a new place, and Christian Kirk, a guy that people kind of know, but someone that really don't know. The only reason they know him is because he got paid a lot of money. Now he's a Jaguar. And I'm trying to take advantage of a situation of a guy with a ton of upside, a lot of speed, going to a situation of who else do they have, right? The Jaguars don't really have these other options. He's kind of the guy they want to get the ball to. And this preseason, we've seen it. In that Steelers game, I believe he was targeted 33% of the time. So he ran 22 routes. He was targeted 8 times. Trevor Lawrence is looking for the guy. And we already projected out this season, if he just has 73 catches per game, 73.5 yards per game, receiving yards, he'll hit this over of 1,250 yards at plus 900 if he just has to hit that number. So I'm looking at a guy that's going to be a number receiver with Trevor Lawrence and a new offense under Doug Peterson, undervalued. And that's what we bet on in this. We look for guys who he's gross. No one's thinking about it. And this is what we're thinking about, long-term success. How do the Jaguars get that? Christian Kirk needs to have a big year. So to me, getting a great number, great value, 73 yards a game, Chad. That's all we need from Christian Kirk to hit this number. I love it at plus 900.
I can already see spending my Sunday afternoons desperately refreshing my Action app to see how many yards Christian Kirk has in a game, waiting for Red Zone to go to a Jaguars game and hoping that it's a Christian Kirk highlight. That is the definition of gross, which is actually normally what Chris Raybon likes to do. So I am shocked right now that you are preempting what Raybon would normally be doing, which is telling me to do something gross. Raybon, can you stand that from your rival, Simon Hunter?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that Simon's talking routes already. I mean, don't turn me on too much here. Convince me. But I got to go with Cam Akers under 1,250.5 rushing and receiving yards. So I'm glad Sean left me with this and took the rushing prop because I agree with everything Sean said. But looking at Akers, I think he's even more likely to go over his rushing and receiving prop because you look at him in his career under Sean McVay, he's been used to run a pass route on only 41% of his snaps. That is less than Darrell Henderson, who's at 51%, and Jake Funk's well over 50% as well. So he's the least likely guy to be running routes on this team, which makes it harder to get his rushing and receiving. He's going to have to do a lot of it on the ground. And if they want to kind of get him some breathers after, he didn't come back that well from injury last year, they're going to do it on passing downs. And by the way, this is a guy that's never played more than 13 games in a college or a pro season. And he's only had over 200 carries once in college or the pros. So I think Cam Akers is a good bet to go under this number. We just have to hope he plays week 1 so we get action.
I do want to be clear. I think at one point you said over. You're saying under.
Oh, under. Yeah, sorry.
1250
Under
combined
1250 and a half.
rushing
Yes,
yards.
under. We don't bet overs. At least I don't.
We don't.
You know that, Chad.
No, we're not square. This is for professionals only. But I do have a question that I'm going to come back to you and Kerner with after Samantha gives me her take on the player prop future I want to bet.
Yeah, so I guess I wasn't the only one to go with a running back under here, but I am going with Najee Harris under 1,150 and a half rushing yards. He obviously looked phenomenal in his rookie campaign, but I am wary of expecting a lightning to strike twice. He was utilized so heavily, saw the second most attempts of any player behind Jonathan Taylor last year, averaging over 18 attempts per game. That combined with the fact that he had a very less than impressive 3.9 yards per attempt, which ranked 40th among qualified rushers. That total means that he would need to hit at least 295 carries using that yards per attempt. I mean, that basically assumes he has to be healthy for all 17 games or become more efficient. This could be pretty difficult for him given the Steelers' offensive line, which ranked 26th last year, according to PFF. It all contributed towards Harris's sort of inefficiency last year. Toss in the fact that he is now dealing with a Lisfranc injury in his foot. Supposed to not be serious, but look, I have like PTSD about Lisfranc injuries right now. First Cam Newton, then Travis Etienne. I'm concerned about any player with a foot injury, but especially a running back. So like Sean said, those running back unders make a ton of sense to me, especially for players who are volume dependent like Harris. I am not predicting a full-on sophomore slump, but I could easily see him falling short of this lofty rushing yard total.
Listen, I love Simon going with an over, a little bit square, and then asking me to spend 18 Sundays on the edge of my seat rooting for Christian Kirk. Here's my question for Kerner and or Raybon. Kerner, you first. Why wouldn't I bet either both Cam Akers under 950 and Cam Akers under 1250 rushing and receiving, or parlay them?
I don't think you can parlay them because they're extremely correlated. This is one of those times where I'm going to tell you to go with both. We are really threading the needle here. If you want me to vouch for mine over Raybon's, we're in the same boat here. I agree. He's not going to see much receiving usage. I'm only projecting him for 200 receiving yards. So, I mean, I like both props equally.
Yeah, I think I want to bet them both. I think that's going to be my choice. I'm going under Cam Akers 950 and a half rush yards, under Cam Akers 1,250 and a half rushing and receiving yards. I cannot believe in the first segment of the year, Raybon gets half a convince me. He got to convince.
I'll take it.
Ravel, tell me what you are looking at on the Action Network news desk.
First of all, the required shout out to my Northwestern Wildcats. Way to go. Way to show 4.4 million viewers on TV that we could beat Scott Frost's Nebraska.
Old news, wrong sport. Get to the point.
Nope. It's the same sport. It's just the amateur version. Okay, I want to talk about Super Bowl odds. The Buffalo Bills are the favorites for the first time since the 91 and 92 seasons. Of course, they made it to the Super Bowl and lost both times. But what we're seeing at almost every sports book is the Bills are not only the most taken by bets and handle, but double the next team. That next team is the Raiders, believe it or not, getting 7% of the bets versus 14.2% for the Bills. And it's the Chiefs in the second spot, but it is the Bills everywhere. Everyone loves the Bills. The Raiders are the only team in the top 10 in both bets and handle that have a longer shot than 20-1. They're at 30-1, and they're number 2 in both bets and handle. Raiders to win the Super Bowl. Chad?
All right, we will get to more Super Bowl futures from our cast of experts at the end of the show. Next up, we're talking about team win totals. Sean Kerner. Oh boy. Oh boy. Lay it on me, brother.
It's coming. I'm going with the Lions over 6.5 wins this year. So to start things off, they ranked dead last in my luck rankings from last season, meaning they are very likely to see a ton of positive regression and a ton of key metrics. First off, they rank third worst in injury luck according to Football Outsiders adjusted game lost. Just by seeing league average injury luck, they could pick up a win or two this season. Plus, they went 2-5 in one-score games. Even worse, they went 1-4 in games of 3 points or less. They even tied the Steelers in Week 10. So they had a lot of close games that went the other way. I mean, just visualize the Justin Tucker field goal that hit the post and went in. I expect the ball to go the other way this year with them. So they were a 3-win team last year, but they could have easily been a 5 to 7-win team with some just better close game luck. Plus, they had the 5th toughest strength of schedule last season, and they have the 3rd easiest this year, according to my power rankings. That's for you, Raybon. I know you love those. And this offense has a ton of playmakers, could be the best offensive line in the league. And while the defense is the Achilles heel here, defense is, pretty volatile as a whole. It's tough to predict year to year, so they could bounce back and be somewhat crappy this year instead of like god awful. So Aiden Hutchinson could be a hit near one. Jeffrey Okudah still has a ton of talent, so this defense could be a lot better this year. Plus, Dan Campbell, he's a player's coach, he's a rah kind of guy, but he's kind of savvy with in-game playmaking. There's a site, rbsdm.com, that tracks how often coaches go for it on 4th down, and it adds to their win probability. And the Lions ranked first last year, so give me the Lions over 6.5 wins.
That is not a hard one to convince me on, and I'm going to come back to you as we go through the list here. Simon, you and I have talked a lot about the Lions on the Favorites podcast, but what are you thinking about for this one?
This will be another no surprise to you, Chad. I think we gave this out in May when it was the Jets under 5.5, plus 140 down, or plus 125 now. It was plus 160. Plus 150, and it keeps dropping every week after people watch more and more Jets, starters play in the preseason. So to me, we were on this early in the sense that we both agreed. We thought Miami was going to take another step, and we thought New England, again, they might not be as good as they were last year, but they're still light years ahead of where this Jets team was. And my biggest issue with the Jets all along was the old school thinking of bringing in a defensive head coach when you're drafting a rookie quarterback, right? We've seen it time and time again. If you just go through the history of these last, 15, 20 years, the head coaches, they're almost all special teams or offensive minded coaches, right? They come from either offensive coordinator, whatever it is, and they pair with these quarterbacks. The only defensive coaches we see win it all are with veteran quarterbacks, right? Like the Brady's of the world. You weren't walking that situation with this Jets team. We knew the Jets were going to be in a rebuild. And once we saw early in the year, all the money coming in heavy on the Jets over, people think we're making that up. That's real. People were really betting this team's over, and it wasn't even close. It was like 90% of the money and the tickets were on the over. Again, it's come back down now that people have watched this Jets team play. We're still getting a great number. I had them graded out 4 wins. The fact that we're getting a free game, it feels like, just because the public has bet this up, this should have been a 4.5 number, right? This team is in a hard division in the AFC. I just don't know where they're going to get the wins from. The fact that Zach Wilson's out made me actually a little nervous, because I'd rather have him playing than Flacco, because Flacco can have that one veteran game, where Zach Wilson is exactly what I thought he'd be, a deer in headlights. So to me, I still think you're getting a good number. You're getting a plus number as well. I would be happy to take this Jets number all the way down to 4.5.
Yeah, look, this was the epitome of Jets win the draft, Jets win the betting market. They got Sauce Gardner, they got Garrett Wilson, they got Jermaine Johnson, and everyone thinks in the first round, all right, they got 3 playmakers in key spots. We got to bet the Jets. As if rookies ever have that much of an impact early in the season. Like, this is not a team that was just 3 players away from going over a win total. I love it, but we'll have to see what Raybon says and what Samantha says before I make my decision. Raybon, you're next.
I'm going with the Cardinals under 8.5 wins. I love this because, first of all, the Cardinals were one of those teams that they were the first win total settled one of the first win totals settled last year. They went over 8.5 in week 11. And, I think looking at their schedule this year, it's going to be massively tough for a team that's pretty mediocre. They play at home. They play Kansas City. They play the Rams, Philly, San Francisco in Mexico. So they lose a home game. They play Tampa at home, the Patriots. So, and then you go on the road, you still have to go to Denver, Vegas. Like, this is a tough all around schedule with no real easy wins. And you look at this team, the offensive line depth is really shaky. They don't have any offensive lineman, even in their starting group, that ranked in the top 50 percentile from PFF. And the same thing is true at cornerback on the entire roster. So when you're weak at the offensive line and you're weak at cornerback, I think you have a really low floor. And I think last year we kind of saw the upside with this team. Everything went right. They jump out to 7 wins, but guess what? They still went 4-7 to close out the season. And, those losses, most of those losses were with Kyler Murray. So I think we see more of that team this year, and I'm expecting them to finish with a losing record.
Samantha, the odds are against you right now. I love Kerner's pick. I love Simon's pick. I love Raybon's pick. What can you do as the anchor leg of this segment right now?
All right. Well, this is a homer pick incoming, but I'm going to take the Panthers over 6.5 wins. So a lot of things happening here. People forget how banged up Baker was last season. And it's just a universal thing. Like, it's not just in the betting community, it's like the fantasy community. A lot of people are really undervaluing Baker. The Panthers have also made a number of decent upgrades at a number of different positions, including the offensive line, which was a huge pain point last year. They drafted a left tackle in the first round, Ike Ekwonu, as well as they added 2 veteran type guys to the line. Hopefully CMC can stay healthy. That is a huge question mark, obviously, but they have DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, and also Laviska Shenault, who they added yesterday. Not that I think that he will move the needle that much, but they do play in the NFC South. The schedule's pretty soft. They play the Falcons twice, obviously, then the Browns in week 1, Giants in week 2, Seahawks in week 14, Lions in week 16. That already feels like 6 wins right off the bat. They won 5 games in each of the last 3 seasons with Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, and Kyle Allen at the helm, and Cam Newton. So I don't predict they're going 0 to hero or anything like that, but I certainly think they can eke out 2 more wins than last season.
This is what's interesting. Simon, I think you have to just completely rip apart this pick, because I know how strongly you feel about it. And then I will surprise everybody with my answer.
Well, I'm not going to shock anyone here. Chad loves Carolina and they're over. So that's what he's saying, is that I would just be in the guy that was like, I don't like it as one of my big bets I would make for team total, just in the sense that I don't really believe in Baker. I think it was more about the system and the talent they had with Cleveland, where Baker, again, he's going to be an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I'm not, like I said it to Chad, I'm not going to deny that. But just for me and value in that division, I'm more of on the crappy Atlanta team than I am on this Carolina team. So Chad's all in on Carolina. He's planted his flag. So I'm interested to see who Chad's going to pick here for his team total win overs.
Well, it's really tough because I've already, to be clear,
You've bet all these.
I bet the Jets under 5.5. I did bet the Lions over 6.5. I'm actually getting worried about the Lions because Dan Campbell is becoming too lovable on Hard Knocks. And I agree with you, Kerner, like having watched him last year when he was taking over the play calling, he was kind of wily in the way he kept that team close and also rallied that team and motivated that team to get them late in games to still feel like they believed. Raybon, of course, the Cardinals under 8.5. This is a terrible team to believe in, right? Especially when you got the Niners and the Rams. Like, it's obvious. I'm going with Samantha and the Panthers because of a lot of what she said, but also I think this defense can be much better than they were last year. And I think that what they got in trouble with is they were on the field so much because the offense never gave an opportunity to move down the offense never moved down the field. So the defense was always on the field. So the defense will improve just by virtue of having Baker and him being on the field a little bit more. I like the weapons on this team. It's the counter play to me to go over 6.5 with the Panthers. Give it to me. Nice job, Samantha.
Chad, I just to be clear, the Panthers defense spent the third fewest plays on the field in the entire NFL last year. Just wanted to throw that out there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Carry on.
Darren, this is why I hate Raybon, by the way. Are you mad at me because
Facts is
I
facts.
said you said Cam Akers was going to go over, and then I tried to correct you for the betterment of the audience?
He did say that. He said,
Hey, I'm not hiding that. I'm just giving you facts, data-driven facts. Isn't that what
Whatever.
people want?
I know what I saw, Raybon. I know what I saw. You can't convince me otherwise. Aaron, what are we doing?
Thank you, Chad. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to the parents of Laviscus Chenault. What a name. Oh my God, what a name.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say, and I want to give a shout out to the Northwestern Wildcats.
No, I already gave
who
that.
won the Big Ten title in 2020.
No. Anyway, I saw that we got the Kerner gave me the Lions at 6.5. They are one of 3 teams at PointsBet where 80% of the money is on the over. The Dolphins at 8.5, the Eagles at 9.5, and the Lions at 6.5. And finally, there is one team where more than 80% of the money is on the under, and that is the Denver Broncos at 10.5.
Let's rock.
If you look down the list, and this should come as no surprise on win totals and money coming in, bets coming in, the Bucs are really nowhere to be found because of the mysterious, not now mysterious, Tom Brady absence and people getting scared off by that. So that's your last bit of insight on the win totals.
You know what? He's 45 years old. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
I'm 44. So do I.
We've all been there. All right, let's talk about some long shot futures. Kerner, give me the long shot future you think I should take.
So my favorite long shot future is Najee Harris to lead the league in rushing yards. And I like it because it's 20-1. I mean, that's a hefty value for a guy that could lead the league in carries. Now he does have that foot injury. I'm not too concerned about it. He suffered it back on August 1st. I've been doing all of our preseason projections, so I've been monitoring it pretty closely, and he was expected to be about 100% by week 1. He had a handful of touches last week in the preseason game. He looked totally fine, so I'm not as concerned about that. But I love the value we're getting on this because he's entering year 2. He's only 24 years old. And this offense, they attempted 664 passes last season, which is 4th most, mainly due to Big Ben just being terrible. But they should be more balanced this year, so he could see even more rushing attempts. And he has almost 0 competition for touches. I still don't know who his backup is. So he could easily surpass 300 carries this year. The only issue is the offensive line, of course. That's the big reason why he only averaged 3.9 yards per carry last season. But as always, yards per carry is a very fickle stat. It can, go up or down any given season. So he could, average 4.3 this year, even with the shaky offensive line. So just given the running back position's very fragile, I just love betting on his ceiling and getting a guy at 20-1 who, like I said, could easily lead the league in volume is too good to pass up.
I'm just making a note here that Kerner goes after Samantha in a much more subtle, thoughtful, professional way than the way Raybon goes after me.
It was a very nice way of saying your pick stinks.
Yeah, he was a very, very nice professional way of saying, wow, she totally missed it in the first round. Whereas Raybon just comes out and tells me I'm an idiot. Simon, talk to me.
Going back to one of the guys I've always loved, and he's finally in a new place, which is a kind of a theme for what I'm going with in this podcast. Here we are, Allen Robinson, right? A guy that people kind of left for dead in the fact that he hasn't done anything in multiple years. So a guy that went from Blake Bortles to Mitch Trubisky to Justin Fields is now in LA. A lot of people don't realize that unless they're doing fantasy. Allen Robinson is now in LA, and he is their number 2 receiver. And we've seen what's happened in LA over recent years with Stafford, right? Stafford last year, once he got comfortable with Odell, it really was a 1A, 1B situation with Cooper Kupp and Odell. Like if you look at the yards in the playoffs, it weren't that different. The biggest difference was the touchdowns going to Cooper Kupp. And this season, I feel like these teams are all going to prep for what Cooper Kupp did last year. Again, the guy broke every wide receiver record. He broke every receiving record in the playoffs. No one's sleeping on Cooper Kupp anymore. So to me, Allen Robinson, a guy who I think has just as much talent as Cooper Kupp, basically the same age, now has Stafford, a guy who notoriously just pumps out yards to these receivers. We've seen it do him multiple times with different receivers. I love the value of Allen Robinson 50-1 to lead a league in receiving. And again, it's not that I'm hoping or wishing injury on Cooper Kupp. It's more I'm just projecting regression. Teams, they adjust, they figure out your weaknesses, and they'll figure out Cooper Kupp and his weaknesses, and they'll exploit it this upcoming season. So to me, Allen Robinson, just not a sexy name, a guy people aren't really thinking about. He's number 2 receiver. You're just getting great odds of what could be a number 1 receiver on a team where if Stafford and him have a good connection, that's a really, really good value at 50-1 for this guy to lead the league.
Cooper Kupp, 4th best player in the NFL top 100, released this week. I love what you're saying about Allen Robinson. As a Bears fan, fully understand the progression. Raybon.
Chad, I'm going with Michael Pittman to lead the league in receiving yards at 50-1 as well. And the reason I like Pittman is because number one, he's just an amazingly good receiver. If you check his reception perception metrics, he's in the top 10 percentile in pretty much every route. And you look at this Colts team, and he's going to hog targets like crazy. So anytime you want a guy to lead the league in receiving yards, you need him to have the upside to lead the league in targets. Michael Pittman can do that absolutely on this Colts team. There's a huge gap between him and number 2. And then you look at Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan is going to be an upgrade on Carson Wentz. And they're already talking about throwing the ball more than they did last year. And you look at Matt Ryan, until he was kind of saddled with that, terrible Atlanta squad once Calvin Ridley was suspended last year, he's had a receiver in the top 5 in receiving yards for pretty much the last decade before that. And we know Calvin Ridley coming into his 3rd year. I think that was the year Kerner ended up betting on him, and he came really close. And that's how I kind of feel about Pittman this year with Matt Ryan. I just think he has all of the things necessary. And he's, for a receiver getting this many targets, projected targets to be at 50-1, I think is crazy.
Reception perception. I feel like that should be the name of a song on a Saturday morning, what you should know cartoon. Reception perception, what's your function? Dan, remember that? Conjunction, junction?
This is why we don't let you talk, Chad.
Luckily, I don't remember that as the second oldest person on this show.
All right, Samantha. Let's see what you can say that Kerner will come back and rip in a few minutes.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I went with Derek Carr, most passing yards at plus 1,000. So not quite as spicy as everyone else's. This is a popular bet for sure. I just think Carr is just overall a guy that's often overlooked, but like he was 5th in passing yards last season behind Brady, Herbert, Stafford, and Mahomes amid some major off-field distractions. Like I think that we don't take that into account enough. The fact that they lost John Gruden and Henry Ruggs, obviously, that was his alpha receiver. Then the team went and made a splash during free agency, adding former Packers star Devontae Adams, who's had 3 seasons in the last 4 years with over 1,300 receiving yards. Adams joins Hunter Renfrow, who caught over 1,000 yards last year, and Pro Bowl tight end Darren Waller, who I'm hoping can stay healthy this year after missing 6 games in 2021. My biggest question with them is their O-line, which did surrender 40 sacks last season and did just waive first rounder Alex Leatherwood. That said, I think there's going to be a ton of shootouts in this powerhouse division. So I love this bet at plus 1,000.
I mean, it's an interesting play. I feel like it's the play that Derek Carr is always the wise guy, long shot choice to lead the league in something air related, but I'm not playing it. The odds aren't long enough. And I don't want to play Najee Harris because I kind of do believe a little bit of what Samantha said earlier in the show. Kerner, here's what I want to ask you. I've got Allen Robinson. I've got Michael Pittman. Which one of those do you like better?
I got to go with Pittman because he's going to be the number 1 target in his offense. So that is key when it comes to this type of market, when it comes to ceiling. I think Robinson would be a sneaky bet for like lead the league in receiving touchdowns or something like that. But I got to go with Pittman when it comes to receiving yards.
You know what? I don't want to bet with Raybon. I'm going with Simon Hunter and Allen Robinson at a long shot of 50-1 to lead the league in receiving yards. I also say this because I've watched Allen Robinson highlights nonstop during summer camp, during training camp, I mean. Because during summer camp. I do it I do it at nap time. After I have my peanut butter and jelly. And it's just been so fun to watch a guy who I've seen for so many years make so many great plays with so many bad quarterbacks, playing with a team that can truly take advantage of his talents. Allen Robinson, 50-1. It's time for the main. It's Allen Robinson, 50-1 to lead the league in receiving yards, by the way. The main event. Let's talk Super Bowl futures. Kerner, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills at 6-1. There's really no need to overthink this one. Typically I go down the board and look at like the 20-1, 30-1 teams. I had the 49ers at 31 in 2020. So that was fun to see that bet evaporate in the Super Bowl. Yeah, the Bills 6-1. I'm doubling down after our epic battle with Raybon and I versus you two. Amazing game. But I think the Bills clear the corner here. You know, they have one of the top offenses, arguably the best offense in the league, one of the top defenses as well. They just added Von Miller to beef up their pass rush. They drafted Kerry Elam to be their number 2 corner. So once Tre'Davious White is back, this is going to be an elite defense. And despite having a, impressive 11-6 record last year, they went 0-5 in 1-score games. So this team has a massive, massive ceiling. So I'm just taking the chalk here and taking the Bills at 6-1.
Boring. Simon.
No, I know. Sorry.
Simon, spice it up a little bit.
Well, my best value bet, Shadow, but I'm not going to go too long on it because no one's going to bet it regardless of how much I plead for them to do it. Jaguars, 120-1. It's gross, but you got to do it. It's like, it's the worst division of football. You're literally on these futures, you're betting on someone just to make the playoffs. So last year, people that bet the Bengals, they had no right reason to bet the Bengals at 150-1 when Joe Burrow is coming back from an ACL. But you bet it just because it's like, heck, if they can win this division, just get in, I can hedge out. And that's how it is with the Jaguars. But my smart money bet, it's got to be the Chiefs. Chiefs 10-1. No one likes the Chiefs. No one's talking about the Chiefs. This is when you want Mahomes. Like last year, people don't understand. That's what a down year looks like for the Chiefs. It's mind blowing. Like them winning their division, it's crazy to think them getting the 2 seeds a down year. But just look at what happened last year with them. They had so many games they lost. They should have won. Tyreek Hill, I get it. I guess he's a big loss. I'll give him that. He's an incredible player. But they're going to change the whole format of the offense. It's going to cater back to what Andy Reid used to do, which is 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, make the defense bring a safety up, and you could open the field that way. No more 2 high safeties when you got 2 running backs, 2 tight end sets. So to me, I love all the little things the Chiefs are going to do this upcoming season. Best offensive line of football with arguably the best quarterback. You're giving me 10-1 right now on the Chiefs. It's crazy to me. So I'll take that and let people bet these unproven teams in the AFC.
Look at Simon Hunter getting technical, breaking down the film. Raybon, you got something bad you want to say about what Simon just said?
Nah. I mean, I love Patrick Mahomes. Like I'm not going to tell anyone not to bet on Patrick Mahomes. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers though. And the reason there's 2 reasons I like them. Besides just, their roster. And number 1 is they are a pretty high floor Super Bowl bet because now that they re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo, they're one of the few teams where you say, okay, if their starting quarterback goes down, they're done. So they're in a good spot in that sense. And then this is a team that we've seen get either to the brink or very close to it in 2 of the last 3 seasons. I mean, if Jaquiski Tartt doesn't drop that pick in the NFC Championship game, it could very well be the Niners in the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years. And then I think these odds would be a lot different. So give me the Niners. They've proven they can get there. They have a high floor in terms of the backup quarterback. They can run and they can rush 4. I always like they're a team that can rush 4, still get pressure. And they have Trent Williams on the O-line, great scheme. So just a good all around team that I think people don't trust because they never quite pulled it off, but pretty high floor, high ceiling team.
I don't know if our producers can see this right now, but Darren Ravel is menacingly holding his phone to the camera to show us what, Darren, that you have the Niners at 16-1.
Nice. There you
Is
go.
that what it says?
Yeah, $500 at 14-1. That's my
$500, 14-1. That's a pretty payout right there. If it scores, I like it. Okay, put your phone down, son. Samantha, what do you got?
Yes. Okay. Well, I have a spicy pick, not quite as spicy as the Jaguars, but yes, I have the Bengals to win the Super Bowl at plus 2,200. They're obviously super close last year, losing in the Super Bowl to the Rams, and they are a better team this year. Burrow's now more than a year removed from his torn ACL. They have one of the best, if not the best, 1-2 punches at receiver. They just added a former first-round pick, tight end Hayden Hurst, and they have a top 10 running back in Joe Mixon. This O-line, which has been a pain point for quite a while, was much improved last year, ranked 20th according to PFF, but they went out and fortified it further this year. Additions of a new center, right guard, right tackle L. Collins. On the defensive side, they added some defensive backs. I think they're just a really well-rounded team with a high ceiling. So I certainly like the value at plus 2,200.
If not for what has been proven to be a massive Super Bowl loser hangover, I'd totally be in. If not for the Jaguars, Simon, and the fact it's the Jaguars, and it's enough that I would think about betting Christian Kirk over, 1,200 receiving yards, I'd be totally in. If it wasn't the chalkiest of the chalks, Sean Kerner, to bet the Bills at 6-1, I'd be totally in. I can't believe I have to do this. I can't believe I have to go with Raybon on the Niners to win the Super Bowl at 16-1. But listen, I'm a sucker for Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a brilliant coach. I think this is the year that he can get over the hump of those last quarter, fourth quarter, double-digit leads in big moments. He's going to have a quarterback that he truly believes in. I am so excited to see this Niners team. I think there's an opportunity with what's happening in Los Angeles, the fact they're coming off a Super Bowl win. There will be some regression. Choosing the Niners 16-1. Much as it pains me to go with Raybon, I got to do it.
1.5, baby. Let's go.
That's right. Oh my God. You had 1.5 today. I will recap right now. I have Cam Akers under 900.5 rushing yards from Sean Kerner.
950.5.
950.5. I couldn't even read my own notes. Listen, it's a preseason show, right? We're getting all the kinks out right now. I also have
prove your prescription in your glasses, Chad.
It was my handwriting. That's the problem. Cam Akers under 1250.5 rushing and receiving yards. Panthers over 6.5 wins. Thank you, Samantha Previti. Allen Robinson to lead the league in receiving yards, 50-1. Well done, Simon. Raybon, I like the Niners 16-1. Thanks to you. This has been Convince Me from our new sponsor, Bet365. For Simon Hunter, for Samantha Previti, for Sean Kerner, Chris Raybon, Darren Ravel, our fabulous producers. This has been the first episode of Convince Me for 2022 regular season. Catch us every Sunday starting September 11th in the Action Network app and on YouTube.